Well, I'm never surprised by the lengths people will go to keep their drugs and the losses they'll experience without regret. The reasons why modern societies that have any morality about them have banned drugs is because they understand the collateral damage that drugs cause. Drugs become generational. They get passed on from generation to generation because the people that take them believe in them, despite all the losses and consequences that they face by doing it. Now, I do ask you to excuse me because I am working at the moment laying bricks, and it might be a little bit tappity as we go along, but I'll do this talk nevertheless. And so it becomes generational, and some of these generations do not escape the curse of it all. They just remain in it, and they've seen what it's done to their parents. I've seen parents, I've worked with men that have since died. They've died. Many of these addicts have died young, because they just don't come out of it. They don't relent. They don't give up. They've died at 30, 40, 50. Because you've got to understand, a lot of people can handle these, their bodies handle these things differently. Some people will live longer than others. Some people will die sooner than others. And remember, Jesus was a carpenter. I'm a bricklayer, so give me a bit of slack with the noise while I try and teach while I work. A lot of these people, their bodies react differently to the chemicals that they're ingesting. And so you have different results, different consequences bearing down on different individuals from their usages of these chemicals, these drugs. Now, what I've noticed is, and I've seen this, every now and then they might be lucky and get a black sheep, a child that says, no, I'm not going to end up like this, I don't want to be like my parents. That hasn't worked for them, and I definitely don't want to pass on the pain and the unnecessary suffering and anguish that I've gone through. This is the mindset that I've witnessed and experienced to my children or the people around me. You see, some people are just never going to come out of it. They don't want to. And I say they don't want to because I've seen the ones that have wanted to, and they do consciously decide that, no, I'm not going to live that life, and so they don't. They get out of it. They find a way out. They consciously determine themselves to escape it, and they do. They get out, and they never go back. But there's a lot of people that don't. They determine themselves that this is the way to go. They like their habits, their addictions. They've decided that it is something that is valuable enough for them to bear the consequences thereof. And they just persist with it until it's the end, until they end. That's what they do. And it's not uncommon, and it happens all the time. These people just persist. They don't relent. They don't go, no, this is no good for me, this ain't going to work. They just continue with the pain, the suffering, the mind the mind damage, the brain damage, and all that comes with it, all the losses that they go through that come with it. They're happy to accept all that for their drugs. And I've got no time for these people that pity these people, because they've made a conscious choice. They've determined themselves to be the way that they are, to stay on the path that they're on, to suffer the consequences of their addictions. They know better and they can do better, but they choose not to. And you say, well, how do you know that? Well, I've seen the effort they put into the things that they like. These people can be very, very constructive and creative. But on the other hand, they're very destructive and at the same time, because they choose not to escape the lethal consequences of the alcohol and drugs. And eventually families break down and you get all these bent and twisted children and mindsets coming into communities and things from the thinking that these drugs create hypersensitive emotions and ups and downs, and everybody's got mental health issues, and all this just goes on, and they end up with physical illnesses and all the rest that comes with it. Not a good scenario. But this is what drugs do. This is how they work. This is how they're designed to undermine our families, our societies, and the fabric of our communities. So we need to be well aware that these people that are choosing to go down this path, this very destructive path of grandizing drugs and all the rest that comes with it, it's predictable where they're going to end up. And they're going to end up nowhere. Some might get away with it for a while, and that's how they get deceived. Everything seems to go well for a while, but then all of a sudden things start to break. Irreparably start to break. But it's too late then, because these people are hooked. They're hooked in. And they can't find a way out because they're addicted. And this is where things start to degenerate very fast. Things start to go downhill extremely fast. Mental health issues. They're not the same person anymore. Their countenance has changed. The shape of their face has changed. The way that they think and perceive things is changed. They're not the same anymore. They've become paranoid. They're not friendly or happy anymore. If you stay around with them for too long, things start to go very, very strange and screw with. This is how these things work. This is how drugs undermine the fabric of the person. And so before you know it, you've got a person that you don't know anymore. Their jawline changes, the shape of their face changes. It's quite frightening how fast this can happen and how vicious it is when it does. I grew up around a lot of people that went down this route and never ever come back out of it. They chose to stay in it and make it a priority of their life. I've had people that have had tremendous careers, train drivers, and slaughtermen. That's a good career, being a horrible job, but pays well. From all walks of life, I've seen the IT people get caught up in it and not find their way out and lose everything and wonder why. They seem to have this victim mentality where they can't understand why. But the reason why is you're on drugs, you're a drunk, you're an alcoholic, you're a drug addict. That's why. And people won't tolerate it because they know where it ends up and how it ends up and what it does, not only to the person that's in it, but how they influence others and destroy others along with them. Because the addicts and the alcoholics, they don't want to do it all on their own. If they can recruit people, they will. Here, have one of these, or here, why don't you try this? Oh, look what he gave me, so kind. Look what she gave me, so kind. Not realising that it's the beginning of the end. And these people, the next thing they're gone, oh, they must have got caught, or I wonder what happened to them, something's gone bad. I wonder if it was the drugs. Well, employers aren't at liberty to tell you why they let people go. That's up to the person to tell you. And a lot of the time the addict won't. They won't tell you it was because of drugs, because that's going to undermine what they stand for and believe in. So you've got to be very careful who you mix with, what you allow yourself to be subject to, and the choices that you're going to make relative to these people and around these people that have been convinced that drugs and alcohol and all these other substances are the way to a successful life, because they're absolutely not.